Okay. So the fiber, the structure of a fiber is something like this. You have a core. This is called as a core, and this is called as a cladding. So what is a core and a cladding? The difference between a core and a cladding is the core has a, both are made of the same material, but the core has a higher refractive index as compared to the cladding. So cladding, the purpose of having a cladding is just to have a mechanical support to your fiber, because you know the dimension of a fiber is as small as your hair. So it is such a thin, and that too made of silica, that's a glass. So it's very brittle in nature. So cladding provides it, first thing that it provides it is a mechanical support. Then the second thing that we achieve with it is it gives minimum dispersion to your signal. You know that the larger is the dispersion, the broader will be your signal, and that will be actually resulting in the signal loss and overlapping. So core cladding combination gives you an improved signal quality, because instead of cladding, if you have air, cladding is nothing but a covering surface of the core, and if you have air in place of it, so you have a dispersion problem. Dispersion means delays and overlappings which need to be avoided. Now how does the light travels in it is, as you can see, it takes a path which is like a triangular path, which every time at the corner it is again bending, and this phenomena is called as total. As I told you, the core is made up of a higher refractive index and the cladding is made of a lower refractive index. So what normally happens is, when your light comes from a denser medium to the rarer medium, right? This is a denser medium, this is a rarer medium. What happens is, light will bend away from the, this is a normal, it will bend away from the normal. So as you keep on increasing the angle of incidence at the interface of core and the cladding, what happens is, this angle of refraction keeps on increasing. There will be a point when angle of refraction is 90 degrees, right? This is a point when you have increased your angle of incidence to a certain value, that your angle of refraction is exactly 90. This is called as a critical point. Critical point in a sense that if I further increase my angle of incidence beyond this, what will happen is, my ray will no more go to my rarer medium, but will be reflected back into my denser medium. That is, whatever was going out or supposed to be going out at this particular angle of incidence, it is reflected back into the medium. This phenomena is called as total internal reflection, right? Total internal means whatever was supposed to go out has is being, and this is a point where you are limiting your light from going out of the medium, and this is how you make your light travel from the source or to the destination point.
Different for different pair of medium, right?
Exactly. Critical angle, I will come to that. Critical angle is not same for all the fiber. It depends upon the value of your core and the cladding refractive index. The value of your critical angle is given as sine inverse of n1 by n2. So it will depend upon your core cladding refractive index, and that will decide. So sometimes you dope the fiber with certain materials, so that means simply, or you change your refractive index of the cladding with respect to the core, they all impact your this critical angle. Okay, so critical angle is very important to decide what will be the point of working, means when will this fiber be used for your optical communication. It can be only used when the angle of incidence is greater than the critical value, that is I, for which your angle of refraction is 90 degree. Okay, so then only it can be used for optical, or it will be experiencing your total internal reflection and then traveling through the medium. Okay, is it clear? This principle? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, this was a fiber that you saw was a simple when you have a same refractive index for your fiber, core, and same value for the cladding. But when this kind of configuration is called as a step refractive index fibers, because the refractive index is a step value, a single value for core and a single value for cladding. So if I have to draw the refractive index profile, how it will look like is, if this is my refractive index and this is the distance from the axis of my core, we know that it is inside the core, it is N2, which is higher than the cladding, and the cladding at this point, if cladding is starting, it is N1. Okay, so how do you see this as? This looks like a step, right? This profile looks like a step, and therefore these fibers are called as step index fibers. But the problem with this is it has got lot of dispersion, and therefore they are not preferred for long distance, although they are cheaper to fabricate, because fabrication is very simple. It's core of the same refractive index with a coating of cladding which is uniform. Okay, now what happens is, since I told you this configuration has got certain disadvantages, there is another fiber which is called as a graded index fiber. What is a graded index fiber? As you had N2 only for your cladding, but now you have multiple layers with a different refractive index in your core. So core is no more a uniform value, but having a refractive index profile which will somewhat look like this. So if I have this as my core, definitely the core will always have the highest, but the profile will be a smooth profile for the core region, which is different for the different length from the center of the axis. Okay. Now the point is, what is an advantage of having such a graded index profile is, this makes, जो पहले आपका ray जा रहा था taking a triangular path, now because of this refractive index, what is happening is every time there is a change in the refractive index as the ray moves. So every time it is either moving away from the normal because it is moving from a denser medium to the rarer medium. So what happens is it keeps on bending, and this, because of the thin layer, this bend is very smooth, and instead of having a triangular path, now it is actually taking a, if I have to draw, it will be a sinusoidal path, right? Now, what are the advantage of this is, this configuration gives you minimum dispersion. Dispersion कम हुआ तो क्या होगा आपका? Dispersion is actually limiting your bandwidth utilization. Dispersion का मतलब क्या होता है? एक pulse आपने भेजी, which is having a certain time duration, right? With the dispersion or with the traveling, what happens is this pulse broadens. तो क्या होगा, अभी मेरा अगर पल्स ब्रॉड हो गया तो मेरा दूसरा पल्स यहीं से चालू हो पाएगा, दूसरा डिजिट या दूसरा इंफॉर्मेशन. So what happened is, instead of small delta t, I'm now using a bigger value to send that pulse. तो क्या हो गया, बैंडविड्थ जिसमें आपकी पहले की विड्थ के हिसाब से सपोज 100 पल्स आ सकती थी, now right now I can send only 10 pulses. So that is a disadvantage of dispersion, that it is limiting your bandwidth and hence the number of user. And definitely right now when we are talking about present generation, optimum bandwidth utilization is what we want, because we want to accommodate as many users, because the number of users is equivalent to the revenue. So every organization has to look at how they can increase the number of users with the present infrastructure and still increase their revenue. So lot of work or lot of research is actually going on into limiting this dispersion so that you have the optimum bandwidth utilization. Is it clear? The difference between a
Yes.
step index and a graded index. Step index ये था आपका प्रोफाइल, ये है आपका ग्रेडेड इंडेक्स. ग्रेडेड इंडेक्स में एक पैरामीटर आता है विच इज कॉल्ड एज अल्फा or the profile parameter which depends upon the shape. Normally we take this alpha to be 2, which is a parabolic profile. Okay. Okay. Now, when a ray is traveling, okay, when the optical ray is traveling through the fiber, what happens is there are certain places where you have loss of signal, right? Whenever I'm sending a signal, what is important for me is I should have a good signal to noise ratio at the destination, correct? So if that signal to noise ratio deteriorates, that simply means my network is actually absorbing or is taking a part of information which is requiring large power to be transmitted at the source so that I have a good signal to noise ratio at the destination. Now, what are these reasons for absorption or reduction in signal to noise ratio is? The first is absorption. What is absorption? The word itself says that when a ray is traveling through it, there are certain impurities present in it. These impurities could be intrinsic, that is simply the material properties, or extrinsic, that is when you are using the furnace where you are fabricating a fiber, there are chances of some external impurities like metal impurities being inserted into your fiber. So they become the center of absorption of energy and that deteriorates the signal strength. Now the second could be the scattering. The word again as it says scattering is, it is actually deviating the signal from its path. How the signal would have traveled एक straight path लेता, अभी स्कैटरिंग होने के कारण उसका पाथ डिविएट हो गया. सो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज दिस पाथ इफ यू सी it is taking a longer path to reach your destination compared to this. So this scattering is sometimes resulting in lot of signal deterioration. Okay. Now the other is, as I said, external impurities. एक तो मैंने आपको metal बताया. The other could be there are lot of cooling mechanisms being taking place in an optical furnace. So because of that, some OH ions get introduced into your fiber. Now these OH ions becomes the center of absorption near your 1400 nanometer peaks. So if I have to simply draw a wavelength versus optical absorption, what do you find is for certain wavelengths, naturally your optical fiber has a very low absorption, but certain wavelengths there are peaks of absorption, means I cannot actually use this wavelength for my yeah. So what happens is, why do I want to show you this is, you will come across these terms in your, when we are talking about network, is 1330, 1550, 850. 850 normally is for only LAN network, but when it is a long distance communication, it is 1330, 1550. Now why it is so is, this plot clearly shows you what is the relation between the optical loss and the wavelength. That is, these are the losses you actually cannot avoid, are bound to happen when the signal is traveling through your fiber. So you see that around this 1200 to this is 1330 point where you have a minimum optical absorption. So this is a window, this is an optical window which is used for communication, is where you have minimum attenuation. Similarly, this window which you see as a minimum attenuation is around 1550, which is used for optical communication, and the first one which is around 850 where you have minimum attenuation is used only for your LAN network. Why this part? Although you know that the larger is your frequency, the larger will be the bandwidth, but there are, because of these high absorption peaks existing, we are not able to use the whole near infrared region for your optical communication, right? Optical communication में wavelength क्या है? Infrared wavelength. But the whole band we are not able to use. We use it around 1330 and 1550. You can clearly see the reason is only naturally जो absorption होगा आप उसको तो avoid कर नहीं सकते. Any fiber है minimum attenuation तो होगा ही because the material you are using, so that cannot be avoided. So what cannot be avoided, then what is the solution of having an improved signal to noise ratio without absorption is selecting the point where you have naturally the minimum absorption or the losses. So this is the reason why we use 1330 and 1550. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we will also come across when we are laying down the network is what are the external factors. ये तो internal हो गए. What are the external factors that can affect the signal or deteriorate the signal when the signal is traveling is one is the fiber bends, right? आपका network जब lay down करते हैं, so there are, it's not that it will be a straight path from say Mumbai to New York. There will be lot of twists and turns, and these twists and turns are the points where there could be a stress in the fiber, and those stress points become the point of signal attenuation. But the point is this can be avoided if we have these bends beyond some critical radius, right? Every fiber with its characteristics have certain critical radius defined for it, that if the bends have a radius larger than it, these losses can be avoided. So it's a pressure or a stress occurring at the bends which are also called as bending losses. Other is temperature, which can affect the properties and can impact your signal. Now step index and graded index I have already drawn for you. So this is just a representation of it. Now another classification of the fiber is, you will come across these terms as single mode fibers and the multi-mode fibers. So single mode, the name, yeah.
Can you please step index and graded index?
Yeah, sure. तो स्टेप इंडेक्स जैसा मैंने बनाया था, ये रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स है, ये डिस्टेंस है, एंड दिस इज द सेंटर, इसके करस्पॉन्डिंग बनाया, दिस इज योर कोर एक्सिस. ओके, तो कोर से क्या है, कोर पे आपका N2 है, ये यूनिफॉर्मली N2 है पूरा कोर पे. उसके बाद आपका क्लैडिंग रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स, ये जो मैंने वहां पे ड्रॉ किया था, और ये वही है ग्रेडेड इंडेक्स. इंस्टेड ऑफ अ स्टेप साइज इट हैज गॉट अ कर्व्ड प्रोफाइल which is varying, which gives you a minimum dispersion. But cladding normally हम N2 ही रखते हैं, उसमें हम grading नहीं डालते, because graded index means fabricating layer by layer with a different refractive index. So it's actually a tedious process and it's costlier as compared to step index 5. Okay?
Okay.
Anything? Shall I proceed?
Okay, ma'am.
अभी next classification, these terms you will come across is single mode and multi mode. Single mode means the word itself says one mode can travel or one wavelength can travel through it. Normally the wavelength takes the shortest path. The shortest path is always following the core ka axis. Okay, and cladding, and you can see the size is very small, and the multimode, the size is big because the large number of wavelengths can travel through it. It is difficult to fabricate a single mode fiber with the required dimension constraints compared to a multimode fiber. Now the question comes is, when it is easier to fabricate multi-mode as compared to single mode, when you can transmit multiple signals at a time, why there is a need of a single mode? When we talk about long distance transmission, your signal attenuation, signal dispersion are of great concern because we want the signal to travel long distances with minimum repeaters because they are adding to the cost. When we come to multi-mode, the multiple fibers have a interference amongst themselves and can result in signal deterioration. So for long distance, you will always use, for a better signal quality, you will always use a single mode fiber. But for say short distance, we can always use multi-mode fibers. But here you will have dispersion and other problems which are not there existing in the single mode. But the disadvantage, as I said, is it is difficult to fabricate because lot of dimension constraints are, you are actually talking about making a fiber as thin as lesser than basically even a 10 micron, and this is 50 micron. So definitely the dimensions, as you can see, this is easier to fabricate, easier to control, and easier to maintain the required refractive index profile. Here even that is difficult, so lot of constraints, but still the performance is higher and therefore this is preferred for long distance communication. Now this I had already told you how the signal travels in step indexes taking a triangular path and graded indexes taking a curved path. Advantage here is it has got a lesser dispersion, larger bandwidth. This has got a larger dispersion. Now one more term that is important is a numerical aperture. Now when I said a single mode and multi-mode, the impact is on the numerical aperture. Aperture, as it says, aperture is this cone what we are talking about. This cone we are talking about, any ray inside this cone will be able to satisfy your critical condition. You remember I started with the critical angle. So any ray inside this will be able to give you a total internal reflection. Any ray beyond it will not be able to satisfy your total internal reflection and hence will be lost through the cladding. So this is of concern. If I want to couple the signal, it has to lie within this numerical aperture. Then only it will be able to reach the destination, otherwise it will be lost. And again, what does this numerical aperture depend? It depends upon the core cladding profile, and the relation for this is given by numerical aperture is given as n1 square. N1 is the core refractive index square minus the N2 square root of. So again, depending upon how large you want because larger is the numerical aperture, the better signals will be coupled, right? So coupling efficiency, if I talk about, it is nothing but the ability of the system to couple the signal into the fiber, and therefore the larger the numerical aperture, higher is your coupling efficiency. So what do we want is, we always want this to be higher, but definitely this is very small for a single mode fiber and larger for a multi-mode fiber. So this is what I was talking about, a pulse and a dispersion. So this is just a representation to tell you that A pulse at the input because of the dispersion becomes a broader pulse and hence is limiting the bandwidth because taking a larger time. Yeah. So this is just again. Now, as I was talking about the dispersion, so the reason for dispersion or how we can remove this dispersion or where we should be working. So 1330, when I talked about and told you that it has got minimum losses, the reason why it has got minimum losses is because the dispersion at 1330, as you can see, this is a point of zero dispersion and this is 1330 where you have a zero dispersion point, as you can see. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why we have chosen 1330 for signal transmission because of minimum dispersion, because you'll get a larger value. Another was 1550. Normally, normal fibers have a zero dispersion point around 1330, but 1550 we can use it by a designing the fibers or with doping, that is called as dispersion shifted fibers. So you can definitely shift your zero dispersion point by changing the profile, the relationship between N1 and N2, the properties of the fiber. This dispersion point can be shifted because you know the higher is the wavelength that is preferred. This is a special type of fiber called as you see the green line, this is called as a dispersion flattened fiber. That is, this full range from around 1330 or 1230 to around 1600. This whole band is at a minimum dispersion for this particular fiber and therefore they are called as dispersion flattened fiber. How do we obtain this is by changing, as I said, your profile in refractive index profile, not only of the cladding but also of the core. सो कोर में हम लोग स्टेप क्वांटम वेल स्टेप डालते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ विच यू आर एबल टू गेट दिस flattened profile. Yeah. So right now you are aware about, I'll just quickly go through is, I explained you as how the signal travels through the fiber and it is taking a step index fiber, it is taking a triangular path that is based on your total internal refractive index, but total internal reflection, that is when your angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, the signal experiences a total internal reflection in the denser medium, right? N2 is denser than the N1. Now the next thing is this fiber has one disadvantage of larger dispersion. To overcome this, one special type of fiber is a graded index fiber where you have multiple layers of changing refractive index giving you a minimum dispersion. Then we talked about what are the reasons of signal attenuation or losses in your fiber is. One is absorption, then the scattering, and we also saw as what could be the best wavelength for signal transmission, that is around 1330 we use for signal transmission and 1550. The reason, as is obvious from the plot, is they have got the minimum lowest loss and therefore they are the window. This is actually the second window and third window of optical communication. The first window is around 1850. The other reasons of losses in the fiber is pressure or stress at the curves when you are laying down your networks, the temperature variations, and then we came across the refractive index profile as I was talking about, the step index and the graded index. The other classification is single mode fiber and the multi-mode fiber. Single mode fibers are used for long distance communication because here the losses are minimum, interference is minimum as compared to multi-mode fibers. So this is just a representation of how the signal is traveling. Then I also introduced you to how we can have an improved coupling efficiency by increasing the numerical aperture. What is numerical aperture? It is nothing but the acceptance cone, or defining the acceptance cone of a fiber. Any light falling inside that acceptance cone will be able to satisfy the condition of total internal reflection, and any ray coming beyond it will have a will not experience total internal reflection and will simply get lost. Okay, and this was to represent what is dispersion and what is its impact on the signal is. It is taking a larger bandwidth and reducing the number of uses. Then this plot also tells you that why 1330 and 1550 are having a minimum losses or improved signal to noise ratio is. These are the point of minimum attenuation. Normal fiber, conventional fiber, what you say is, will have a zero dispersion point around 1330, and therefore this is preferred for signal transmission. Although this property can be shifted by changing the refractive index profile of the core as well as of the cladding, and this we can shift the zero dispersion point to a longer wavelength, that is around 1550. Some special fibers and their profile help us to attain a flattened, dispersion flattened profile where it is minimum or almost zero from around 1250 to 1600, and this is actually giving you a broader band where you can use the fiber for signal transmission with minimum losses. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you understand what is optical communication. Now coming to a network. So have you seen your syllabus?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ. So actually this is
In the first
हाँ.
lecture, ma'am.
हाँ, तो अभी आपका सोनेट अभी थोड़ा रीअरेंजिंग किया है सिलेबस में, बाकी तो कुछ नहीं है. आई विल बी टेकिंग दिस फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू सी इज सोनेट एंड एसडीएच, which is a part of your syllabus, and this network topologies. Okay, so relationship is sonnet, SGH, multiplexers, all this I'll be taking. Madam must have started from this, na?
Coupler.
Couplers and this last one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let us start with the requirement of network. Although this optical fiber was giving us a simple point-to-point communication, but still, why this requirement of a network means what is having a system with an improved or a larger amount of capacity. Okay, so why did this network come, or what do we expect from a network is simply any network is expected to give you a higher capacity, means whatever single network, single fiber आपको देता था, you should have an improved or a higher capacity as compared to existing system when you are forming a network for it. Now coming to the next point is, why do you need a network is, it should be able to give you, although it's not that it should only give you a higher capacity, but it should also give you a improved performance or an efficiency. So it should also give you an improved efficiency with respect to the data traffic that you are handling. It should not be that the data has increased. If I talk about optical fiber, it is like, even for because of the larger bandwidth that it has got, losing communication for few seconds is actually resulting in large amount of data loss, right? Because एक second में how much data, what is the bandwidth that we are trying to support through an optical communication is in terahertz. So when we are talking about such a large bandwidth, losing a single second of communication wherever it is important and critical is actually losing large amount of data, and therefore with the higher capacity also comes the requirement of an efficient support for the data traffic. Efficient support will also have that there should not be any drop in the traffic line. Any errors if introduced, it should be able to handle it, so that any errors if getting introduced, they can be the system should have a capacity, self check capacity, and to rectify it. And also the very important thing from a network is it should be flexible to the new demands. New demands is, suppose I am right now supporting a system which can, suppose say, handle only 10 users. Tomorrow my users increase to 100. So it should not be that I have to simply pull this out a system of 10 users and lay down a system for 100 users. Instead, I should be able to upgrade it to the requirements of my users, so that that network, the old existing network, remains intact, and I am able to support more users by every time making a delta increment in my existing network. That is how the system should work. It should never be that you scrap the old network and say I have to, the user requirements have changed, I have to have a full new network. So every network can be having a delta increments to fulfill the bandwidth requirements of the users, and it should also restore the existing and the older connections, and be able to support, even if you say you move from one generation to the other, definitely the way the data was being transmitted is now no more being followed, but still the new system should have a capacity as well as a provision for accommodating that old system till it exists or till the users are using it, so that the people should not have a feeling that this is for only for revenue generation every time they upgrade the system and ask us to take the new system. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So the bandwidth requirement, as you see from this plot, tells you that the telephonic requirements are following a linear curve, but the IP traffic requirements, it's an exponential, and therefore there is a large every day. Previously, we never thought of getting 1 GB or 1.5 GB data per day, and that too we are able to actually consume it when we talk about the large data that we are able to today get. But the point is, this demand is not going to anytime say become stagnant or say no more, there will be an increase, we have to have a fixed system at the to support only this demand, but it is going to increase every day. Today we have 2G, 2G was there, then the 4G came, then presently every system is now built to support 5G, so that next generation when it comes and gives you higher data rates and the larger uh, better packages, you will definitely want to opt that, so that you have a better user experience, right? So this bandwidth requirements are going to increase, and therefore there is a need to have a flexible system. Now optical system has a potential to support these network new generation network requirements. Why? Because everyone knows that it has got a larger bandwidth, because we are talking about large frequencies being used for this optical communication. So larger bandwidth permits the high data transmission. The first requirement of a desirable network was a high data transmission. So optical communication transmission supports high data rates, and it's not limited to only voice or only data, but it can support all the three, that is voice, video, and data. Now the second thing is the technical improvements are occurring rapidly. There is a lot of research that is happening in this field to actually have an improved optical network. Optical network has got a certain limitation or disadvantage, I would say, as compared to the IP network that was existing, is it is very fast to switch in this IP network that we have compared to optical, because it's not as flexible as the existing network. Why? Because you have a fiber and you have a wavelength, and that wavelength is the only parameter on which you actually externally can identify the signal. You are not going deep inside every fiber and what are the data that it is carrying and how you want to handle it separately, but it can only work on that particular wavelength. And that was making the system little, you can say it was more of towards the static side as compared to the dynamic side. But still with the advancement, we have devised certain components which work on all optical transmission. Means every time if I say, because long distance transmission, if I say I need to have a repeater that is to perform your 3R operation, that is reshape, retime and reamplify. What was supposed to be done was your signal, optical signal was supposed to be converted into an electrical signal, and that electrical signal was supposed to be again converted into an optical. So this process of optical to electrical and electrical to optical was time consuming. The second is required lot of electronics to complete this, as well as it was costly, and was actually limiting your bandwidth. Because what was happening is, ideally if I talk about optical bandwidth is very large, but we are able to use only a partial amount of it. The reason being, these components, electrical components in your system, limit its bandwidth, and therefore we need the components which are all optical. That means there is no conversion from optical to electrical or electrical to optical, but the input is optical, the processing is done on an optical signal, and you get an optical output. Then only we'll able to have a complete optical network which will give you the increased capacity and be able to, are basically able to use the whole capacity of an optical fiber. So there is lot of technical improvement that are going on. Lot of all optical components are being made, which are being tested and used in network to make it more dynamic as compared to we include electrical components and limit its bandwidth. Now, another advantage of optical transmission is that it is these it is immune to electromagnetic radiation. Means that I can actually have my network even in a electrically hazardous environment. It's not that previously it was that electromagnetic waves, when we were traveling to the transmitting to the copper fibers, it cannot be laid down in a strong electrical field, because that field would start interfering with your signal. Since your optical fibers are insulators, right? It's a glass, it's an insulator. So those electromagnetic waves outside cannot interfere with the signal inside the fiber, and hence we can use it even in an electrically hazardous environment. The glass fiber, we are using glass fiber which are abundant, as well as it has got a low attenuation as compared to the copper cable. Then this I have already covered, dangerous, electrically dangerous environment. And yes, it is not easy to actually hack your information from an optical fiber, because it's a insulated. Instead, if we want to take out the information from an optical fiber, what is to be done is it has to be actually cut, and then we can take it. The moment it is cut, definitely the alarm in the system are existing about any loss of information. You can actually save your system from or provide a higher security to your system as compared to the copper wires. And since they are made of glass, they are lightweight, they are small diameter, but still provide a high capacity for signal transmission. So if we look at the optical network evolution, initially, as I told you, it was a simple point to point, but since we want more than what is existing, what was done is, instead of sending one fiber, one wavelength through one fiber, we started using multiple fiber. That is a dense wavelength division multiplexing. That wavelength division multiplexing was used for transmission of signal. Now, along with that, with the development in the components, that is all optical component as I was talking about, optical ADMs are add drop multiplexers, that any point we can add the signal, drop the signal. So this added to with the added complexity could actually support large amount of information and could support your network. Then this was only limited, we could drop and add. Then came the cross connects, that we could actually routers, like a routers they do, they take a signal from one point and then switch it to the next point. So that is how these cross connects or frequency converters were added to your network. That further helped us to improve the network, and now that has brought us to the present optical network place, where we have not only simple fiber initially. What happened was, our network was fiber network, means only copper cables were replaced by optical fibers, but still the nodes were electrical and that limited its bandwidth. So what was done is, the with the development of these all optical components, what has happened is, we are actually now able to replace those nodes with these optical components and hence increase its capacity for data handling, as well as the number of users that can be provided services through this particular network. So optical fiber will help us to have a high bandwidth in and it will have low loss and low bit rates. We can increase the transmission capacity. One is our time division multiplexing and the other is wave division multiplexing. Data simultaneously, as I said, on multiple waves, and time division is, if I am using a single wavelength, lower speed data streams are multiplexed into a higher speed data stream. Is we have a kind of a multiplexing system to allocate a different time slots to each user, and hence multiple users can be accommodated in the single time slot, giving importance to each one. And the last third type of, what the optical network prefers is using TDM and WADM in combined. Both these multiplexing can be used. Now, optical network, it is actually the second generation of networks, we would say that. And in optical networks, the first generation optical network is a SONET, where switching and processing was done by electronics. So, as I told you that initially, when this optical network was made, it was only the copper cables were replaced by optical fibers, but the nodes were doing all the processing in electrical and the electronics domain. So that was your SONET system, and it was well taken care. When we will study this case study, we'll understand that how did it take care of the previous generation communication system existing, when even though this upgradation was helping larger data rates, but still it had a provision of supporting the lower data rate. So that is what is very important whenever you are making any network. So that is what the properties of network which we studied in the beginning. Next is your second generation, is where in this, as I said, is only fibers are used and everything is in electronics. And the second generation is, you have even that OADMs, that is add drop multiplexers, cross connects added to your system, which are providing you the routing, switching, everything done in an optical domain. So that is the second generation of optical network, but still a lot of work is going on and lot of scope of improvement is there. The existing system definitely has achieved some dynamics in it as compared to SONET, which was actually, you would say that it was static in nature, and this second generation has added some dynamicity in the network. So we will be starting with the first chapter, that's your SONET. So as I said, Sonnet was the first generation of optical network. We only knew at that time was this has got a large capacity and wanted to exploit this capacity for the uh, for to be able to handle the larger data rates. But as the name suggests, it's a synchronous optical network. So synchronous word itself tells that what additional thing was required, or the most important thing that was required when we are setting a Sonnet network, was a requirement of a master clock. What is a master clock is a Sonnet system wants that every time every node should be synchronized to receive the signal, and therefore this master clock would synchronize every node so that it is able to receive the signal, um, and time division multiplexing could be used. Okay. Sonnet is compatible to the previous generation, that is DS1, E1, ATM cells, everything it could support, and it had a provision of actually not, although it was made to handle larger data, but in that still using multiplexing we could transmit lower data rates or the information of users with the smaller data also. And demultiplexing was also easy because it uses systematic technique of multiplexing and demultiplexing. So these were the characteristics of Sonnet. And previous generation, and if I talk about the previous generation and the Sonnet or SDH, we normally write Sonnet slash SDHs. Sonnet was the standards being used, US. SDH was a European standard. Both were similar, only thing was there was a difference of a multiple. So if I take the base rate of Sonnet, it was 58.4, whereas HDH it was around 155. So if I see, the multiplication factor is 3 times. So the base frame size was smaller for Sonnet as compared to HDH, although they were on the similar lines. So if I talk about if I talk about the properties of the previous generation and the Sonnet, is multiplexing, as I told you, was one of the very important thing of Sonnet, because it had to handle lower data rates as well as less data of the previous generation, and therefore it had a good multiplexing and demultiplexing system, and had a master clock being used to facilitate this, as compared to previous system, which in which it was very difficult to actually um, find out any particular information from the whole lot of bits that was being transmitted. And I would say it was basically more complicated as compared to Sonnet. So difficult to pick a low bit rate from the stream of high bit rate. Means if you have done a multiplexing in the previous system that we had, you have to actually demultiplex whole, again find out where did you place that information, pick it up, again multiplex it, and then send it forward to the next user. But whereas in Sonnet, you had flags, you had bits to identify the location, the pointers were there in it, which could help you to actually identify the location and quickly pick up the information that you wanted by demultiplexing and again back multiplexing and sending the signal. Management of the information and the security was better, as I told you, in Sonnet, because the higher the data rate, you need to have an improved system. In previous system, it had only 4 bits dedicated for the security and operation management system, but Sonnet has large number of bits which were dedicated for the management and traffic performance monitoring and information monitoring. Then Sonnet use the standard optical in, because what was happening was, whenever the new standards came to the market, what happened was every vendor wanted to have their monopoly, and every time, if I say the network is of a particular service provider, you got actually fixed with that service provider, because changing the service provider would mean that you need to actually change the whole system, and that is how the people maintain the monopoly in the market. But presently, you know that right now, if I'm using one particular system, I can quickly transfer to the other system. That is because the standards are being followed, and whoever be the service provider, they have to follow the standards so that the customer has an advantage over them and can select the services of the vendor, whoever is better. So that is why that standardization was brought, and that Sonnet and SDH followed the standard, so that if anybody, any service provider could provide it, and there was no specific vendor for a specific component. So that was an advantage, because it was using the standard things, as compared to the previous vendors, where every different vendor had a different coding technique, and therefore it was complicated, and customers were at a disadvantage. And then networking, if we see, the Sonnet is better compared to the previous system, because it takes few milliseconds to restore the system, because it's systematic, it's module wise. Any problem in any module is quickly restored, because you have a backup system. You know how to resolve a problem at any particular point. So that everything is systematic, is Sonnet system, and therefore the restoration is fast. And therefore, if the restoration is fast, you know what advantage we are getting is, we are getting minimum data loss. I talked about few seconds of communication loss results in large amount of data, which is overcome in the Sonnet system, as compared to the previous system, where sometimes several seconds to several minutes or hours used to take to restore the system. Then the low speed previous system could be easily mapped into the Sonnet system, and can be recovered easily using the virtual tributary. Virtual tributary is something, or the word is container for SDHs. It is like a space allocated, and in that fixed space, you can actually place small. You can think of it as a shelf, right? In that shelf, you have to keep multiple books, so you can stack them and keep them easily, and then you know how you can recover it, because you have a pointer also allocated to it. So that is the advantage. So payload placing in a Sonnet was very systematic, with lot of bits allocated for organization, monitoring. Overhead bits were there, uh, path overhead bits, payload envelope bits. All these help to maintain the data, as well as able to retrieve the information easily. We'll come to, right now what we are seeing is the properties, and then we'll come to each property which I'm saying right now, and see how it is being implemented in Sonnet. Is it clear?
Okay, ma'am.
What is
Okay.
Sonnet? हाँ समझ में आ रहा है ना? So Sonnet is nothing but a synchronous optical network, which had copper cables being replaced by optical fibers. The advantage that it gave you was a larger bandwidth, but still the processing was done at the nodes in electronics domain. But it was a systematic system, giving an advantage to the customers, as well as had a system where you could place the previous generation information of a smaller bandwidth, and support that also, not making the previous system redundant and non-existent. Okay. Now, in this Sonnet, The frame size was kept at 125, virtual tributary frame size was kept at 125 microseconds. Those were the standards that were being followed. Now, optical elements that are being used to lay down a SONET network is an optical line terminal, that is, it's a multiplex multiple wavelengths into, helps to multiplex multiple wavelengths into a single fiber, and also demultiplex into a separate fiber. Both the operations can be done by the multiplexing, and the demultiplexing can be done by the optical line terminal. The optical add drop multiplexer, as the name suggests, helps us to add any wavelengths at any particular node and drop the wavelength. If, say, the destination of a certain information is reached, you could drop it there, and the remaining information could pass through and reach their desired destinations. So that was advantage of having an optical add drop multiplexers and the cross connects. So this is what how the SONET system is implemented. Say multiplexing, that as it was talking about, you have multiple sources which is time clocked with the help of a master clock. Every source has a fixed time slot for the information to be multiplexed into a big frame, that of the SONET, and you are able to do the multiplexing and send your information. So this is the importance of having a master clock, where every time user has got a fixed time slot and they can send their information synchronous or asynchronous in a synchronized manner. Yeah. Now, before SONET, I said there were existing transmission bit rates, that is DS0, DS1, DS2, DS3, and similarly European standards were E1, E2, E3 and E4, which are nothing but certain bit rate values that we need to actually remember when we are doing our multiplexing. I'll just take you this, I've done it. Now, let us see that how these low bit rates can be accommodated in the SONET. So, how it is done is, I'll just, if we look at this, this is a SONET frame. Before we go to multiplexing, let us first understand how does the SONET frame looks like and what is the data rate that it is supporting. So, this SONET frame has 9 rows and 90 columns. So let us start calculating the base rate here. So 9 rows and 90 columns. So how many you have is 810, right? So 810 blocks are there, bytes are there. Every byte is being transmitted one by one. Now what is happening in this, of this 90 by 90, these first three are called as transport overheads. Overheads is, it's not the user information but the information to manage the payload, that is manage the user information. So this is like 3 by 3 is for section overhead, and the remaining 6 by 3 is for the line overhead, that is basically the bits used to manage your payload, where it is placed, what is the information and other things are there. Along with that, you will also find one more column of bits being dedicated for payload management. So basically you can say that 4 by 9 is dedicated for your overhead management, and the rest area you can use it for your payload information. Okay, now this is what is the number that of columns and rows you have it. Now how many bits are being transmitted is a single byte is being placed, so I have to multiply it by 8. So that will make the number of bits. Right now it is bytes are being transmitted through your frame. Now what we have to do is, how many bits are there? It is 810 into 8. How much it is? 4
6480.
right? 6480 bits. Okay.
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
what is the data, the rate, the frame rate that at which it is being transmitted? It is because initially we have to accommodate for the previous generation, which was only for the voice data transmission, which had a rate of 125 microseconds. We need to take that into account. So 125 micro means how much it is? 1 by 125 micro is how much? I need to calculate it.
Ma'am, it's 8,000.
Yeah. 8,000 into 6480.
5184
Correct.
times.
Correct. It is 5184,000 bits per second, right? That's a
Ma'am,
rate.
4 zeros are there.
40. Yeah, correct. 4 zeros are there. हाँ, bits per second. So ये कितना हो जाएगा? 1, 2, 3. So it will be 51.84 Mbps. Correct? So the base rate of sonnet is 51.84. Okay, so this frame, this the basic frame tells us that the sonnet will support the data, whether you multiplex it, एक frame में आता है या multiple frames, it will support 51.84. Okay, so you just need to remember that the base rate for the sonnet is 51.84. Now, do you see this? The synchronous, the level 1, that is, what do you see sonnet hierarchy? When we see, it shows you that the first level, that is STS, the synchronous transport signal, we call it as the base or the optical signal. First optical signal level is 51.84 Mbps. So from where did it come? Now you understand from where did it come, right? It is because
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
sonnet configuration that we have got. It's not randomly that they have selected it, taking into consideration how they will accommodate what is there for the previous generation. ये सब लेकर frame size, this it has come to this number of 51.84. So this 51.84, if I say, we will have to match it its capacity. माने एक frame में previous generation का क्या आएगा? I'd shown you this was the previous generation, correct? 0.064 Mbps, 1.44. तो if I give you 51.84 आपका base rate है, तो उसमें DS1 के कितने सिग्नल आएंगे? Can you calculate? DS1 के एक सिग्नल का बैंडविड्थ है 1.54 Mbps और आपका एक फ्रेम का साइज है 51.84. तो एक फ्रेम में कितने DS1 सिग्नल्स आएंगे?
We have to multiply, right?
नो, डिवाइड. ये इस कैपेसिटी में ये कैपेसिटी का कितना आएगा? तो इसको डिवाइड करोगे तब तो नंबर ऑफ DS1 सिग्नल्स आएगा ना? यस और नो, राइट? ये टोटल कैपेसिटी है एक फ्रेम में. उस फ्रेम में कितने ये वाले सिग्नल आएंगे जिसको एक को लगता है 1.544 Mbps.
Ma'am, we have to calculate for DS1, right?
या DS1 करो, फिर DS2, फिर DS3.
It's 33.5.
So 33 होगा, हाफ तो आ नहीं सकता ना, इट्स एन इंटीजर. और DS2 कितना आएगा? 33.
51.84 divided by 1.544.
1.544 ना. हाँ.
हाँ. It's 8 for DS2.
8 और DS3 1.
It will be 1 only.
यस, करेक्ट. अभी हम लोग देखते हैं इन लोग
Yes.
ने क्या इंफॉर्मेशन दिया हमको. या ये 28 कैसे आया, तुम्हारा क्यों नहीं आ रहा है? थर्टी थ्री है बराबर. Okay, I'll tell you the reason. I forgot to tell you. Now, this of this 51.84, let us now again go back to our frame. इसमें से मैंने आपको बोला था यूजफुल डेटा पेलोड कहाँ पे आएगा, बाकी तो सब क्या है, चार जो आपके क्या है ये रोज, दे आर डेडिकेटेड फॉर योर, they are dedicated for payload. No, they are dedicated for their overloads. Overloads में क्या है, इंफॉर्मेशन होगी कि कहाँ आपका बिट है, पॉइंटर क्या है, कहाँ एरर्स है, पैरिटी, ऑल दैट आपका इंफॉर्मेशन विल बी देयर. So they are not the user information. Now what is remaining is your payload information. So payload information कितना आएगा? It will be 86 by 9. Correct? 86 कॉलम में यूजर पेलोड होगा 9 रोज. yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let's calculate again with 86 by 9. ये तो हमको फ्रेम साइज पता चल गया. Now we know. Now let us calculate what will be your maximum data that can be supported. Although the frame size is 51.84, but the useful information or the user information is only in 86 columns and 9 rows multiplied by 8 bits multiplied by 1 by 125 micro. Tell me what is this value?
Ma'am, 86 divided by 9.
No, multiplied. 86 by 9
Okay.
है ना, by this column is
Okay, okay,
86 columns and 9 rows. तो total bytes कितनी हो गई, और फिर multiply by 8 किया तो bits में convert हो गया.
Yes, yes, yes. 688.
6
88.
आगे. It is 86 into 9 into 8 into 8000 निकाला था ना, 1 by 125 micro. So it is
Okay, okay, okay. 86 into 8 into
49.536.
एक मिनट 86 into 9 into 8 into
1 by 125 micro.
Yes, it is 49.
Yeah, 49.53 Mbps.
Yes.
yes yes
Correct?
49.
करेक्ट. 49 आ गया. अभी हमारे पास ये यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन है. नाउ लेट्स गो बैक and see why they are getting 28, right? It was not matching with what we were getting. We were getting 33. That was considering the full frame is actually having the information. Now let's again see. अभी 41.953 है. अभी इसको डिवाइड करो 1.54 से और बताओ कितना आता है.
मैम 33 था ना, अभी किया था।
हाँ
49
49.53 डिवाइडेड बाय, अभी पहले 51.84 डिवाइडेड बाय 1.5 किया था।
अच्छा ओके।
थर्टी 32.37।
32 आ रहा है, ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ा। ओके ठीक। सो व्हाट सिमिलरली ST3 क्या होगा, ST1 जो है बेस रेट है 51.84, उसमें हम 28 DS1 सिग्नल्स डाल सकते हैं। विल कम टू मोर ओवरहेड्स बीइंग यूज्ड एंड देयरफॉर एक्चुअल कैपेसिटी 28 ही आता है। नाउ व्हाट इज STS3? STS3 इज जो बेस रेट है, दैट इज सिंपली 3 फ्रेम्स कंबाइंड टुगेदर। तो 3 फ्रेम्स अगर आपने कंबाइन किए तो डेटा रेट कितना हो जाता है?
डेटा रेट हो गया ये
एक का है 51.84,
84।
51.84 है आपका, एंड 3 टाइम्स का कितना होगा? 3 फ्रेम्स आपने कंबाइन किए तो कितना बेस रेट बनेगा?
153
155।
155.52, correct? So this 155.52 and similarly STH12 जब बोलेंगे तो बेस रेट को आपको 12 से मल्टीप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. So this is how we calculate the base rate for STS12, STS48, STS192. All this what you see is how, from where did we get is, you need to calculate the base rate and whatever is the synchronous level, as per that you need to multiply to get the base rate of that particular frame. So 3 means 3 frames are combined, 12 means that 12 frames are combined. Sometimes user data is very large, so you need to actually combine 12 frames for one user information. So that is how this information that you see or the numbers have come from. And it also shows that how these numbers can be used to accommodate the previous generation data. Okay? Is it clear? ये number and number table. ठीक है,
numerically asked on this.
हाँ, इसमें न्यूमेरिकल ही आता है और प्रूफ ही आता है, वही तभी तो करा रही हूँ.
अच्छा ओके.
हाँ, और ये STSN जो है, मतलब इंस्टेड ऑफ 1, 3, 12, 40, ये स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं. हाँ, अभी आप बोलोगे 2 क्यों नहीं है, 4 क्यों नहीं है, दीज आर द स्टैंडर्ड नंबर्स. ओके. नाउ STSN जो है will be nothing but n bytes interleaved. Interleaved means frames are combined to interleave STS1 signal. STS1 is 51.84 के n सिग्नल्स कंबाइन करके जो सिग्नल बनता है उसको STSN बोलते हैं. ओके, ठीक है. या नाउ अभी आपका क्या हो रहा है, मैपिंग कैसे होता है और सिग्नल कैसे भेजा जाता है जब मल्टीप्लेक्सिंग आप कर रहे हैं. आई जस्ट क्लियर दिस अप. Okay. Now what is happening is your signal or your information may not always be synchronous in nature, right? तो कभी asynchronous आता है तो आपका टाइम वेस्ट ना हो, इसलिए मल्टीप्लेक्सिंग, टाइम डिवीजन मल्टीप्लेक्सिंग helps us to save our bandwidth and utilize it. Now what happens is, how the signal is finally being sent on your optical fiber is, you are now combining it. और जो मैं तुमको STS3 बोला है, how is it being made is, आपके 3 यूजर सोर्स है, आपके सबके STS1 आ रहे हैं, आप मैपिंग कर रहे हैं कि मैपिंग इज नथिंग बट प्लेसिंग इट प्रॉपर्ली सो दैट मास्टर क्लॉक के साथ दे आर ऑल सिंक्रोनाइज. कैन यू सी, ऑल आर सिंक्रोनाइज. एंड 3 सच फ्रेम्स, 3 फ्रेम को हमने बाइट इंटरलीव किया, मैंने कंबाइन किया नेक्स्ट टू नेक्स्ट. मैंने इफ आई हैव टू ड्रॉ हाउ इट विल लुक लाइक इज, हाँ, ये एक फ्रेम है 90 by 9 का, ठीक है. इसी के आगे हो जाएगा 90 by 9. रोज नहीं बढ़ी है, कॉलम्स बढ़ रहे हैं आपके, ठीक है. So this is your bit interleave. This is 9. This is always 9. This is 90 by 9, 90 by 9 and 90 by 9. So STS3 क्या साइज क्या हो गया? 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 270. Correct? Into 9. That is your size of STS3. Okay? ठीक है, कैसा आपका STS3 बनता है समझ में आया ना? ये 1, ये भी 1 है, ये भी 1 है, STS1 और ये भी STS1. All three are combined one next to next and then you form your STS3.
So, ma'am, this is happening in byte interclave.
Yes, yes, बाइट. मैंने आपको बोला ना, यहाँ पे जब मैंने आपको फ्रेम दिखाया तो आपको क्या बताया था, उसमें एक एक बाइट है, इट्स नॉट बिट. तभी तो मैंने 8 से मल्टीप्लाई किया था.
नहीं, वो समझा.
ये बाइट है, एक एक बाइट है. अभी बाइट इंटरलीविंग बोल रहे हैं ना, बिट नहीं बोल रहे हैं. ठीक है. नाउ अभी हम लोग को इस फ्रेम में ये जो मैंने आपको बताया था, देयर आर ट्रांसपोर्ट लेयर, सिंक्रोनस पेलोड है. नाउ what information is placed where and how is it useful for us is very important. So this transport overhead and the synchronous payload जो है, payload is the user information. इसको हम फर्दर डिवाइड करते हैं. मैंने आपको बोला एक और कॉलम को डेडिकेट करते हैं एज अ कंट्रोलर और ओवरहेड मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द पेलोड, बट द रेस्ट बिट्स आर फॉर योर फुल फ्रेम मैनेजमेंट. तो ये कहाँ पे यूज होता है? व्हेन यू आर ट्रांसमिटिंग योर सिग्नल फ्रॉम द सोर्स टू डेस्टिनेशन. सो you have a fixed destination, so the information about the destination, about the wavelength that you are transmitting, जो डेटा कम्युनिकेशन हैंडशेक कॉल्स है, वो सब इंफॉर्मेशन आपका इस बाइट्स में सेव्ड है, ट्रांसपोर्ट ओवरहेड बाइट्स में. एंड एवरी टाइम दे कम एट दैट पर्टिकुलर नोड. सो वो नोड डिपेंडिंग अपॉन वो सेक्शन ओवरहेड है या लाइन ओवरहेड है या सिंक्रोनस है, माने रिपीटर है, it will simply go and check for the information required and then push the signal to the next node for the other information. It's not that every node will actually read all the information. It will read only the information required at this particular node. तो हम लोग ने कर लिया, right? Now अभी pointers is what I told you when I was explaining the advantages of your Sonnet system over the previous system is Sonnet has got pointers which were not there in the previous system. Now what is a pointer? Pointer is nothing but telling you the position from where your information is starting. Why it is important is because your information, when I'm speaking, there are a lot of pauses and it's not coming in a synchronous way, but your frames are moving out in a synchronous way. So what will happen is, sometimes with the pauses or sometimes there are delays, what will happen is every time your information may not start from this. Suppose my information starting point is this for every frame. It may not start from this point, but instead what will happen is there could be certain delays and those delays may leave certain columns or certain rows as blank. And your information suppose starts at this particular point. So the information about this point from where the information, useful information is starting and rest is redundant is actually a part of this overhead, so that every time when I have to retrieve my information, I may not go I may not go I may not go and search every byte and find out where my information is, but instead these flags or these points, locations will help me to find out where is the right position where the information is placed. So these pointers help us to actually maintain the synchronous, although the frames are moving synchronous, every frame may not be full, but still sometimes the frames are empty. So these pointers will have certain information about telling that these frames are empty and they may not be considered when you are retrieving your information. So pointers are very useful and help us to maintain the sending of the information synchronously. Now, I talked about virtual tributary. So I told that virtual tributary, you can think it as a big shelf, and on that you have a smaller shelf where you can place your small books, some similar sized books. So this is how these multiplexing is taking place in your Sonnet. हमारा एक फ्रेम था जो 51.84 का था, उसमें से यूजर इंफॉर्मेशन हमारी थी कुछ 46 पॉइंट समथिंग. तो हमने वो फ्रेम को स्मॉलर सब फ्रेम्स में डिवाइड किया है ताकि आई कैन अकोमोडेट द स्मॉलर इंफॉर्मेशन. Now, how do we do it is we call those as virtual tributaries, and normally your one frame can be divided into four virtual tributaries. एक sonnet frame को हम four part में divide कर सकते हैं और एक sub part में you can keep the information of similar data rate. That means suppose this frame is I'm keeping the information of DS1. So all DS1 only can be combined and kept here. In this frame, if I'm say keeping DS2, all DS2, that means a data rate of 2 Mbps can be placed only in this. So there cannot be a diversity when you are placing in one virtual tributary, but every tributary can have a different data rate. और अगर आपने एक फ्रेम में 4 virtual tributary रखे हैं तो 4 डेटा रेट हो सकता है 1.5 भी हो, 2 भी हो, 3 भी हो, 6 Mbps भी हो. But the point is one tributary will have a single data rate. That is very important when you are doing your 7 groups, not 4 groups, 7 groups, 4 sizes, correct? So sizes are 1.5, 2, 3 and 6. Okay. So let's see how we will be placing these. So this is how your one frame could be divided into 7 virtual tributaries, and each tributary will carry one data rate, one of these 4, that is 1.5, 2, 3 and 6. So normally this virtual tributary, one group will have 4 1.5 or 3 2 Mbps or 2 3 Mbps or a single 6 Mbps data rate. Now we need to find out how these numbers of 4, 3, 2 have come. So हम लोग पहले अपने फ्रेम को डिवाइड करेंगे 7 पार्ट्स में. तो हमारा फ्रेम कितना है? 6. ठीक है. Now tell me what will be the size of one virtual tributary? आपके पास आपको फ्रेम का साइज पता है, उसमें यूजफुल वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी इज गोइंग टू कैरी द आपका ओनली यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन. तो अपना साइज कितना आया था फॉर द यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन? व्हाट वाज द साइज? क्या साइज आया था आपका वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी का? 51.84 तो आपका एक सोनेट फ्रेम था, उसमें से यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन कितना आया था पार्ट आफ्टर डिडक्टिंग दैट इज टेकिंग 86 into 9 into 8 into 8000, 49.53. 49.53 था ना?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
हाँ, इसको हमने डिवाइड 7 में, करेक्ट। 7 में डिवाइड किया तो हर एक वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी के पास अप्रोक्सीमेटली 7 Mbps का स्पेस आता है. Now in this 7 Mbps you have around 12 bytes dedicated again for your overhead management, क्योंकि अभी आप एक में कितने सारे इंफॉर्मेशन रखोगे, 4 रखोगे, कभी 3 कभी 2, कहाँ से कौन सा इंफॉर्मेशन है. So again we reserve some 12 bytes for your overhead information. So now the size of actually the frame available for प्लेसिंग द यूजर डाटा कितना हो जाएगा. 84. बताइए कितना बचेगा. ये यूजर इन्फो 7 है आपका, 7 Mbps का आप इंफॉर्मेशन डाल सकते हो वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी में. बट आई सेड वी नीड टू फिक्स और एक्चुअली कीप सर्टेन बाइट्स अवेलेबल फॉर द यूजर इंफॉर्मेशन, सॉरी ओवरहेड इंफॉर्मेशन. तो अगर मैं 7 को डिवाइड करूं 1.5, दैट इज द DS1 का डेटा रेट, हाउ मेनी सच कैन बी प्लेस्ड.
Seven divided 1.5 ना.
यस यस,
4, right?
4.6.
4.7 आता है. तो हम लोग एक्चुअल में प्लेस कर सकते हैं ओनली 4. कैन यू सी वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी 1 में ओनली 4.4, 4.17 तो हम कर नहीं सकते. द रीजन बी you can have in integers only full frame or no partial frames. And the second thing is we have reserved certain bytes for again overhead information, pointer information. Can you see in this diagram there are certain bits allocated for pointers so that I know where one tributary starts, where is the first tributary, where is the second, third and sub tributaries. You can say that there are certain pointers allocated. Similarly, now you can divide it by 3 and tell me how many such frames can be, 2, and tell me how many such frames can be put in the virtual tributary. It is only 3 point something, so 3 such frames can be put. Yes?
7 divided.
7 आया ना हमारा हर वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी
Yes,
का
yes,
साइज.
yes, yes.
और अपना
Yes,
डेटा
ma'am.
DS2 का साइज है 2 Mbps.
Yes, 3.5 आएगा तो
हाँ,
3
तो
देंगे.
3 आएगा. सिमिलरली अगर हम 3 रखते हैं तो 2 आएगा.
Yes, yes.
So this group, as you see, when I say a virtual tributary group, अगर हम एक फ्रेम को 7 वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरीज में ब्रेक कर रहे हैं तो एक वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरी में यू कैन कीप आइदर 4 1.5 वर्चुअल ट्रिब्यूटरीज या 3 2 Mbps virtual tributaries or 2 3 Mbps virtual tributary or 1 6 Mbps virtual tributary. Is it clear?
Yes.
हाँ. और या फिर हम पूरा फ्रेम और 51.84 यूज कर सकते हैं. दैट इज बेसिकली फॉर this both the cases which I showed you was interleaving, that is STS3 में हमने क्या किया था, अगर बिग डाटा रेट है तो हम लोग इंटरलीविंग कर रहे थे, राइट. वी कुड कंबाइन द बिट्स frames and make a bigger frame to accommodate that data. That was one case when you have a data size greater than 51.84. The second case is when your data size is less than 51.84, to have an optimum utilization of your all the frame, the whole frame is break it into 7 virtual tributaries, and in each virtual tributary you can have the small size data that can be placed in groups consisting of either 4 VT1, 0.5 or 3 VT2 or 2 VT3 or a single VT6. So small size को भी आप accommodate कर पा रहे हैं, big size को. So this is telling you how flexible is this system, not limiting कि अभी तुम्हारा हर data, हर frame size should only be 51.84. No, it allows you to have a data rates which are smaller than 51.84 and also which are larger than 51.84. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just do a quick review of what we did today. Is we, as I have already told you, we have I introduced you to the basic concepts of optical communication. Then we started with the yeah. Then we started with the desired requirement of any telecommunication network, that it should have a high capacity, high efficiency, flexibility, and ability to synchronize and be able to fulfill the ever growing demand of the bandwidth because it's increasing exponentially. Optical communication has a potential for it because it has got a large bandwidth. Lot of research is going on. Optical fiber being your insulators can actually support the are immune to electromagnetic radiations and can be used in electrically hazardous environment. It has got low attenuation at the frequency of transmission, that is 1330 and 1550. It is a secured system because fiber is insulated. Signal cannot be, electromagnetic waves cannot be uh, taken out easily, but it has to be broken to take the information, and so it will create alarms and it won't be easy to hack the system. It is low cost because the fiber glass is being used, it is lightweight, and the optical network has evolved from point to point to the present system of consisting of wave division multiplexing along with all optical network components like add drop multiplexers and cross connects, which act as switching and routing, which help to do switching and routing in the network. Then we looked at the optical network characteristics, that it is giving you a high bandwidth, low loss, as well as supports the multiplexing TDM, WDM, and even the combination, and gives you a synchronized output. So the two generations that we'll be discussing in this are Sonnet and the present gen network, where you have all optical components. Sonnet was the first generation. As you can see in this, I forgot to show you this diagram. This is the first generation where only these are the copper wires. When the Sonnet came, these copper wires were replaced by your optical fibers, and in this third generation these nodes which were electrical are replaced by the optical. So here what was happening was you had an optical to electrical and electrical back to optical conversion, and therefore it was limiting the bandwidth, whereas this, what is happening is, this is actually helping it to have a larger bandwidth because no conversion from electrical to optical or optical to electrical is taking place. So this I'll do it next time. Yeah. So Sonnet, as I told you, was better than the existing system because of the larger bandwidth, the flexibility, multiplexing, and ability to handle the previous generation, that is a smaller data rate as well as the larger data rate rather than from the base rate was possible. That was the advantage of Sonnet, and this is how the Sonnet is working in time division multiplexing with a master clock, which is synchronizing the synchronous timed signals from each and multiplexing it so that all are being placed, your frames are being sent synchronously. Uh, Then we saw that the existing previous generation signals before Sonnet were handling these data rates because mainly they were handling the voice signal. That is, the signal was being sent at say 8 kilohertz, which is 1 by 1, which is 125 microsecond frame size was there. So to accommodate Sonnet, we saw that Sonnet had a bit rate of 51.84, giving a frame of 90 columns by 9 rows, which was giving you 51.84 as a basic, but that did not mean that it could not handle the bigger data or the smaller. So then we saw how it could handle the bigger data by simply byte interleaving. It could actually combine the frames and could handle the higher data rates. And the second was by dividing the frame into virtual tributaries, it could handle the lower data rates where each tributary would hold similar data rate, either 1.52, 3 or 6 Mbps, and the numbers were 4 VT 1.5, 3 VT2, 2 VT3 or 1 VT. Okay. Any doubt in what we have done? Is it clear? I've just given you a base of sonnet. So, and a few characteristics. We need to go deeper into how it was better than the previous generation and what were the disadvantages that required a third generation to come into existence.
Okay, ma'am.
Is it clear? Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.